This is Scott Vanderplu, and you're listening to the Artist Edition Index podcast, episode 77.
I went down to the St. James Infirmary, found my baby there, stretched out on a long white table, so sweet, so cold, so fast.
Welcome back, where we take the written word from aeindex.org and bring it to all the life I can muster for this podcast. Relatively speaking, April was a quiet month, but there was something very exciting that occurred on April 11th or 10th, depending on where you are, and that was the release of Kevin Nowlan's Marvel Heroes Artist Edition. This is the new book. Unfortunately, my copy is still delayed in the mail, so I do not have a review for it this month, but that will be coming, fingers crossed. Don't see any reason why not, in May. So let's jump into other things then. I don't really have a topic for this month. I do want to discuss the poll, because that's an interesting change that we did. No shipping changes this month, really. Nothing really to speak of. We had a solicitation, and we had... I had one review. I normally have 2 reviews a month, but because I was expecting the Kevin Nowlan book, I sort of didn't have my second review lined up, and then I had my second review. I had taken the pictures, and I was starting to write, and then I realized the pictures were nowhere where I was writing the article, so did not get it done for April, so that's disappointing, but I do have it, and it will be one of the reviews for May, so... yeah, that quite didn't work out. Let's discuss the poll from last month, because I think it's pretty interesting. And that was suggested by follower Billy Hines. And normally I don't mention people's last names, but because he follows and he's got an active Twitter account, and he's always reposting my stuff, I figured, well, last name's known, it's in his Twitter profile. So, alright. The poll was, how many AE format books do you have? Billy suggested a series of polls, just asking, just the info about collectors, how many they have, what they like, what they don't like, that kind of thing. So this month had a lot of, so I tried to pick the numbers, right? So I do like 5 categories on a poll. So I had 1 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 20, I'm gradually increasing, 21 to 30, and 31 plus. I was thinking that 4th category should have been 21 to 40 or 50, and then 50 plus for the last category. Based on these numbers, I can see I probably should have done that, because the largest amount of voters here have more than 31, and that's at 45 votes. The next category, interestingly, is 11 to 20, 25 votes. 6 to 10 is 18 votes, 1 to 5, 17 votes, and then 21 to 30, 14 votes. So numbers are really interesting, and that they're all over the place and not exactly what I would expected. Now, I realize people taking the poll would have to know about my site, and to know about the site means they're probably not a 1 or 2 AE format owner. I figured they'd be heavier in the higher numbers, just for being sort of a rabid fans core base. But I was happy with the larger numbers, and that's thanks to Facebook and social media and Twitter and things, the poll being put out there. So thanks for everybody who retweets or who shares. I appreciate that. All right, next month we'll have something along those same lines, I think. And I'll keep going with Billy's suggestions. Yeah, good. That was a good poll. All right. 1 solicitation this month, and that was from Dupuis, and they had 1 new book. Buck Danny contre Lady X, Dupuis Artiste Édition. For the first time, the original plates and color indications of the mythical Buck Danny contre Lady X are reproduced in facsimiles in the original format. Buck Danny contre Lady X was pre-published in Spirou from February to August 1956, and appeared as an album in 1958. This is the first meeting between the athletic aviator and Lady X, who will become his favorite adversary. This is solicited for June 2nd. It's 608 millimeters by 458 millimeters, which is 18 by 24 inches, so it's quite a large book. It's 104 pages. It's a hardcover. It's €250, so The Dupuis Éditions have been €199 or €200, and now this is bumped up to $250. I can see why the increase. I think I talked about last time in my review that the page count the book has been getting a little bit smaller and the page count's been going down, but they've been keeping the price. Now they've really jumped up the size, but we're going to pay more. I pre-ordered on Amazon France strictly for the fact that the shipping was the cheapest. I've been ordering from other places these books because I've been using Amazon France doesn't take PayPal, so I have PayPal, and I've been ordering from other places. But this time I had some credits, so I used Amazon France, and the shipping was I ordered 2 books from them. It was €20, which was significantly cheaper than just getting the one book I wanted shipped to me. So worked out well. I'm hoping that's going to come. Because these ship in a box, shrink wrapped, in another box, shrink wrapped, and then in another box. Even with Amazon's horrible packaging, this should still show up in excellent condition. So I'm very hopeful for that. All right. Let's talk out of print sales. It's an interesting sort of all over the place this month. Interestingly, no records were set this month. So that's, I don't know, as we gradually come down out of the crazy highs of 2021, 2022, are we not going to touch these records again? I mean, we saw quite a few last year, so I think as interest peaks for these books. All right, let's get into it. Alex Toth's Bravo for Adventure, first printing. I've got to make a note in the list here. Anyway, $80. One copy, Batman the Dark Knight Returns, $75. I don't understand how this has gone to the bargain basement, because it's $175 US cover price, and then retailers can get it for about 50% off that. So this is even well below wholesale, so that's interesting. 3 copies of Bernie Wrightson Artifact Edition second print for $157.99 average. 1 copy of Dave Stevens' Rocketeer Artist Edition first print, $100.13. 1 copy of David Mazzucchelli's Daredevil Born Again Artist Edition for $274.99. 1 copy of Frank Miller's Daredevil Artifact Edition for $170.03. 2 copies of Frank Miller's Sin City: The Hard Goodbye, averaging $146.24. That's an increase for that book in price. I feel like that has been floating very cheaply, about $100 for quite a while now. 3 copies of Gil Kane's Amazing Spider-Man, averaging $123.33. 1 copy of Jack Davis's EC Stories for $152.50. That's a really great price too, actually. 1 copy of Jack Kirby Commandy, The Last Boy on Earth, $139.99. 1 copy of Jack Kirby, The Forever People, $114.99. 2 copies of Jack Kirby's Marvel Heroes and Monsters for averaging $223.49. 3 copies of Jack Kirby's Fantastic Four, averaging $224.99. 1 copy of Jim Lee DC Legends for $150. 2 copies of Jim Starlin's Marvel Cosmic, averaging $105.19. 1 copy of Joe Kubert's Tarzan and the Apes, $105.99. 1 copy of John Byrne's Fantastic Four for $289.95. 1 copy of John Byrne's Marvel Classics for $88.88. 5 copies of John Byrne's X-Men Artifact Edition, averaging $370.10. 1 copy of John Romita's Amazing Spider-Man Artist Edition Volume 2 for $159. 1 copy of Lone Wolf and Cub Gallery Edition for $104. Unfortunately, that's that drastic drop from Penguin Random House getting a new source, or Dark Horse discovering extra copies. So that Lone Wolf and Cub, if you want that, please get it now while it's still cheap. It was cheap when it came out. It was gone. It was very expensive. More copies have surfaced. Buy it, please. It's an amazing book. All right. 2 copies of Man Artist Edition, averaging $234.51. 2 copies of Marvel Covers Artist Edition first print, averaging $154.95. 1 copy of Mike Mignola's Amazing Screw-On Head and Other Curious Objects, $129.99. 1 copy of P. Craig Russell's Strange Dreams for $124.99. 1 copy of Ross Andrews' Amazing Spider-Man, $134.99. 2 copies of Sam Keith's The Max, $318 average. That's continuing to hold that high place there. Sam Keith fans clamoring for that book, apparently. years and years after it was published. One copy of Steranko, Next Year Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. second print, $199.95. 2 copies of Terry Moore, Strangers in Paradise, $127.49. Finally, after being on this chart for months and months, we finally have a sale. 1 copy of Usagi Jimbo Samurai and Other Stories, $198. 1 copy of Walter Simonson Manhunter and Other Stories, $158.18. I don't understand that. That book has floated much lower than that for years. Walter Simonson's The Mighty Thor Artist Edition second print, $119.95. 2 copies of Will Eisner's The Spirit Artist Edition, averaging $167.25. And as I said earlier, no records for this month. So interesting numbers there we have. I'm seeing some things consistently stay high, and otherwise other bargains. eBay is consistently, there's a bargain if you wait a year or 2 or 3. It's tough going, but seems to be how it goes. All right, now is the time when I mention fundraising. Sorry, it's the podcast standard. 3 ways to support the Artist Edition Index podcast, website, myself, and all things related to AE, and that is to use the affiliate links on the site. That's the best way to do it. You're already buying it. I get a percentage when you click through my link. That's awesome. I love that. Second way is to use the store. Now, I have a page on the site. It's the store. I'm selling extra copies I've bought or copies I've found, a field. And another great way to support me, because generally they're a good price, or they're very hard to get, or they're very hard to get and a good price, and you're able to buy them from me. And the third way is to be a Patreon patron. You can $1, €1, whatever currency you have, you can start at that and go up to as much as you'd like. All the money is used for me to buy more books and to do reviews and to keep the site going, host the site, host the podcast, yada yada. All right, thank you for listening to that. And I hope you do click on affiliate link or use the store. I do like to be able to provide something to you so you can get a deal. All right, one review this month, and that is Rayon U Édition Bibliophile. In 1943, in the pages of the Belgian weekly Bravo, a certain Edgard Felix Pierre Jacobs embarked on a saga entitled Le Rayon U. It was intended to succeed the adventures of Flash Gordon, banned by German censorship. The infamous Captain Dagon, a member of Australia's Secret Service, infiltrates a mission to the Black Isles led by Norlandia and aims to get their hands on uranium, a mineral with prodigious properties. Soon the expedition will experience extraordinary adventures. The visual universe and characters of the Rayon U announce the adventures of Blake and Mortimer, to which the author will give birth under the pseudonym of Edgar P. Jacobs in 1946 with The Secret of the Swordfish. Side note, I don't understand why that's an alias pseudonym if they just said his name was Edgar Felix Pierre Jacobs. All right. Ray U contains all of Blake and Mortimer. He is the Matrix, but this story of thwarted fate was somehow born twice, like Edward P. Jacobs himself. First, an opera singer before becoming a cartoonist. Published in 1943 in the Bravo Youth newspaper, this somewhat forgotten story was never published as an album until the early 1970s at Édition du Lombard. Preserved by the E.P. Jacobs Foundation, all the graphic material of the second version of Rayon U was recently rediscovered. Plates, character and costume research, color studies, handwritten notes, handmade reassembly model. For the first time, the authentic parts of the Rayon U, redesigned by its author, are brought together in a book. This is published by Dargaud in March 24th. It's 237 by 310 millimeters. That's 9 by 12 inches, 96 pages. It's a hardcover with a dust jacket and print. It's €29.99. And I got mine from Amazon. It's also available from BD Fugue. My copy from Amazon shipped in one of those, it was a single book I ordered, and they put it in one of those hard mailers, the cardboard mailer that wraps around the book completely. So I had a bit of a ding. If you look at my pictures, I've got a bit of a corner ding, but it wasn't really that bad. Did I say this? Yeah, with dust jacket, which was just annoying. What's the deal with dust jackets? Interestingly, though, they do have a different image on the dust jacket than they do on the book, so that's always nice to see. This is really interesting. So let's get to the nitty gritty here first. Yes, the complete album, Le Rayon U, is in this, and as they said, the second version. So what that means is Jacobs took, it looks like his production pages are basically black and whites, and he recut them into an album, into the portrait format. Apparently it was landscape before. And he pasted them. He added dialogue because he was doing this story like Alex Raymond did Flash Gordon, where there was no word balloons, dialogue balloons. It was just the boxes giving everything. So Jacobs recut the art. He added art around where he cut, like he expanded the panels. He added word balloons, even though they're actually all square word boxes. And that's what you get as the album in this book. So it's an interesting artifact. But then, because I've got on the site here, there is a lot of original art in the book. So it's all his character sketches. There's a lot of pencil roughs. There are color guides. There are pages that he hand painted. There are script pages. There is just a ton of stuff in this book. If you're a fan of Jacobs and you want to, I mean, it's interesting that this is a very early work from Jacobs, right? This is like work 0 or album 1 from Jacobs. And he was so well developed at this time. I know he was an assistant to Hergé, but to come on like this, it's very nice. But then you can still see the simplicity when the youth in the designs, and just how simplistic he gets when he's not, doing the complete working it out. But the art is fantastic. It's a really great book, and relatively inexpensive. I mean, this is a nice thing. 9x12 is the size, right, for something large enough for you to appreciate the art, but not full size and not shrunk. I find this is the same size as the artisan editions are, which I will begrudgingly admire and say that I do enjoy. I have all the artisan editions now. I kept picking them up for cheap. I thought, I'll get this one, I'll get that one. And then I looked at my shelf and realized I have them all. But I enjoy the artisan editions more, the full size. But to have an artisan edition at that reasonable price point is fantastic. Just like these books, the 9x12. I've also seen, I think, a bunch of books from Franklin about this size too. I've got to get more info from the forums and maybe get a couple of those from Amazon as well, because it's large enough, but not as large as I'd like. But what are you going to do? I've changed this is a side note completely, but I've stopped using JPEGs on the website. I'm now using WebPs just because of the smaller size. I'm hoping they're smaller size. I'm going to do a couple reviews and see if the size is actually consistently smaller, because I'm wondering about if there is no advantage to doing it this, then what's the point, right? I mean, this just another format I have to worry about. I had to change how I did my watermarks. I had to add new watermarks, so that was kind of annoying. But it's a WordPress site, and the WordPress used to just automatically add watermarks for me, but I couldn't get a plugin that would automatically add watermarks to WebP images. So now when I add my image, I'm just adding the watermark, which is just fine anyways. I still keep my original photos and then the edited ones with watermarks. So that's completely irrelevant to 99.9% of the people listening. But if you'd like to know a little technical background about what's going on the site, then that's the story. Awesome book if you like Jacobs, if you want to see pencils, if you want to see his production values, if you want to see him build out the story. I mean, there's so many aspects of this book that are collected here. It's really great. And then just this completely bizarre print that is some very rough pencils. There's full pages in here of his gorgeous pencil and ink work that could have been a beautiful print that maybe you would have actually wanted to display. But instead, they gave us this print that nobody's going to display. I don't even know why it's there. So that's a bit of a fail. I understand the European market seems to love prints, and North American market really doesn't. But this print is, it's included, but it does not have much point to it. All right. I apologize, but this is, I think, going to be the shortest podcast we've ever done at 20 minutes. But it was very quiet this month. I'm looking the site again just to make sure I didn't miss anything. But no, We had some good solicitations last month, but pretty quiet for April. May could be exciting. We'll see. It's Free Comic Book Day this Saturday. Unfortunately, there's no AE format material on Free Comic Book Day, which is not a surprise, I guess. But thank you for joining, and we will talk again next month.
Let her go, God bless her. Wherever she may be, she can search this wide world over. She'll never find a sweet man like me.